starfruit tree. See the starfruits? Or wonder where starfruits come from. Anyways, let's see if I can angle myself so y'all can see it. Love my starfruits. Anyways, let's talk about this question. It just came up to me. A doctor asked me, what happens when one of my hygiene patients is getting their Invisalign done at an orthodontist office, or maybe it's a new patient to your practice and they transferred from a different provider and they have Invisalign attachments on and they're asking me to take them off. Can I take them off? So this is a question and I want to address a few key points. So I like to think of Invisalign just like braces. It's a form of braces, right? It's removable braces. It's still braces, it's still treatment. If your patient has attachments on, that means your patient is currently having treatment and under the treatment and under the care of somebody else. So if you just go and remove those attachments, you're now part of that plan. It's not just removing the attachments. You're now married to that patient and to that case. So it's a lot more than just removing attachments. Why? Well, if the treatment isn't fully done and they're in some type of awkward or weird bite or traumatic bite or anything like that, and you may not fully understand what the plan is, you are now responsible for any damage that could be done by leaving them in that state. And unless you understand ortho, like other orthodontists do this all the time, patient comes to us. Let's take a step back. Let me tell you what happens when this happens to me as an orthodontist. Patient comes in, says, hey, I moved here from a different state. I just really wanted to get my attachments off. I say, okay, that's cool. Let me take a look at your bite. I'm gonna do the full ortho exam. I'm gonna take a pano and see if it's okay to discontinue treatment at that point. Maybe they're completely done and maybe that's totally fine, and that's fine, but that means now you are doing several procedures and you need to bill accordingly and have the right paperwork. Number one, you're doing a debond, which is taking off the attachments, polishing the teeth. Number two, you need to take final records. You need to take a set of records before you take the attachments off, documenting what the patient looks like when they walked in, and a set afterwards, as well as a set after you deliver retainers. I always recommend that. There's a whole reason for that, and if you don't know the why behind that, you want to check out all my retainer videos. I've got, I think, dozens, if not more, in my YouTube channel, which is Straightsmile Solutions. You can just go on the homepage or you can go to my website, Straightsmile Solutions, search under educational videos. It's all free at the moment. So, initial records before the procedure, final records after the procedure, records after you delivered the retainers. Do you know what type of retainers you're going to be delivering? Well, if you don't, you shouldn't be doing this because you're now responsible for the patient's relapse, the patient's retention visits, and all that. So there's a lot of responsibility that you are accepting just by removing those attachments. So you need to make sure that you have the right documents. If you don't know what documents you need, well, it depends. They even have more. You can go to Straightsmile Solutions to check those out. But the whole situation needs to be assessed. And anything that's not ideal, like let's come up with a few scenarios. I know I'm being vague here. Let's say there was a patient, they asked to get the attachments off. You check with articulating paper, you take a scan, you take x-rays, and you see that patient has unbalanced occlusion. They have maybe occlusion on a few front teeth, maybe a couple of premolars, not in the back. Would you want to debond? If you take the attachments off, the aligners no longer work and let the bite settle, which is basically treatment and monitoring during treatment. If anything goes wrong, you're going to have to start Invisalign over again unless that case has been transferred to you and you know there's some time left. This could get really expensive. This can turn into a $2,000 lab fee. Are you prepared for that? Once you get started with this stuff, you're now responsible for everything. So you need to really look at this as a brand new case. If you do the full evaluation, bite is good, teeth are straight, it's a solid bite in the back, airway is good, contacts are good, you're feeling really, there's no anterior contacts, you're feeling really good about the finish of this case. Well, I'm feeling a little better about it then you're going to go ahead and get your paperwork signed, take those records I recommended, figure out what type of retention the patient wants. You're going to create a contract, explain exactly what you're responsible for, what you're not. Take those records, deliver those retainers, see them for retainer visits. How much would I charge for that? Well, at least $1,000. So, and they may have already paid the other doctor for this. So this is now getting messy. It's up to the patient to get the refund from the doctor first before you do this procedure. You're certainly not going to try to collect it from the other doctor. So, or you get your money and it's up to the patient to deal with it. But the patient may thinking you're only charging $50 to remove attachments, and the least I would charge would be $1,000. The least, including all that work. That's a lot of work. And if I needed bond retainers or other things, I'm going to charge a heck of a lot more than that. This might be $3,000. So most likely the patient's going to want to go back to their old orthodontist, even if it means just flying over there. The most common reason these things happen, to be honest, is not because the patient moved. That's what you're going to hear. It's because the patient didn't pay their bill and the doctor is not continuing the treatment. Now, holding the patient hijack is not a great idea. It's actually below standard of care, but it happens all the time. So It's one of those gray areas in ortho where they're like, okay, well, I'm not going to deliver your retainers and take your attachments off until you finish paying your bill. I'll bet you 9 times out of 10, that's exactly what happened. And do you really want to get in the middle of that mess? Because that means you're inheriting a not so great patient. So if it was like a real patient move situation, the doctor is going to give you an AAO release form saying exactly what treatment was done, what the retention recommendations are, and they're going to give it to the patient as well as the initial records and the final records, excuse me. And patient's going to have that information and walk in with it. Now that's a legit situation. Still going to charge the $1,000. Not going to change what I'm going to charge, but I'm going to feel a lot better about this. And you should definitely, if you're not familiar with how to do ortho, then you shouldn't be removing attachments. Send them to an orthodontist to do it. That's my 2 cents worth to keep you out of trouble. If you have any questions, of course, contact your liability insurance and consult your own dental practice act. That's just my opinion. All right, thanks.